Hello, hello, hello. I think we are live. It's always hard to tell. Hello for Clear Vision Wednesday. So today, before we get going with the topic, today's topic is an interesting one, but I want to introduce myself first. I am Claudia Mühlenweg, and if you don't know me, I'm known as the Holistic Vision Coach. I am teaching natural vision improvement, and I help people reduce their glasses strength with their need glasses and see clearly naturally. So for some reason, it sounds like the live stream is offline. I want to make sure that we are actually live. Let me know if you can see me. I feel like it's a huge, yes, now I can see myself. It was a huge delay. Anyway, that's always the fun with live streaming. So I am known as the Holistic Vision Coach. I'm a natural vision improvement teacher. I'm not a doctor. I'm not prescribing anything. I'm not telling you what to do. My goal here is to educate you. So I'm the founder of the Natural Clear Vision Institute. And what I really do is educating you and helping you to empower yourself to improve your vision naturally, right? So I'm not telling you what to do. I'm educating you, and then you test things for yourself. And that is really important to know for today. So what I'm doing is educating you on prescriptions, what you need to know, but then you make your own decisions in conjunction with your eye doctor. So don't follow, like there's no cookie cutter formula to do this work. And it's really important that you have the support from a medical doctor doing this. Okay, let me share my slides. I have some slides prepared for you. So let me share those. I always believe that visual cues are very helpful for all of us. So here are my slides, and I'm going to go into a slideshow presentation. So today's topic, and this is part of the Clear Vision Club, my community, we want to talk about how to reduce glasses safely. And this obviously applies to you if you need glasses. And maybe you only need glasses for specific distances. Maybe you need glasses all the time. Maybe you haven't even started wearing them. And if that's the case, you don't really need to listen to this training unless it really interests you. All right. So first of all, medical disclaimer, like I said in the beginning, this is coming from me, from my knowledge, from my expertise, my own training, and from any experts that have contributed. But this does not replace a vision exam. Okay. And that's the first thing I want to tell you. It's really important to get a regular eye exam. And I recommend going to an ophthalmologist because you want to make sure your eyes are healthy, there's no eye diseases brewing, and that you have the right prescription. And this is especially important if you're driving a car, right? So this is not something where you just want to mess around. And also for this whole process that I'm explaining today, having a prescription from your eye doctor will also give you a lot of information about your vision. So if you haven't done that yet, if you've never been to an eye doctor, definitely go to an eye doctor and get your vision measured and your eyes checked, okay? So now, this is a photo of a prescription. So when you go to an eye doctor, and if you have vision that's not perfect, you will leave with an eyeglasses prescription. And I want to quickly go over some of those most common terms. And prescriptions can look differently, but the terms are usually always the same. So some of the basic terms are OD means oculus dexter, it's the right eye. And OS means oculus sinister, and that refers to the left eye. And most prescriptions that we will also see are written in a kind of a row format. So the top is always the right eye, the bottom is always the left eye. So you can kind of base it on that. Sphere is corrects basically nearsightedness or farsightedness vision, and that is measured in diopters. And then you might also have a number in the cylinder. The cylinder is also measured in diopters, and that is the strength of your astigmatism. Now, if you have a cylinder, you always have an axis. Those two numbers always go hand in hand because the cylinder describes the strength of the astigmatism in the cornea. Most often it's in the cornea, and the axis describes the angle of the astigmatism, right? And if you don't know what that means yet, that's okay. We have a separate complete training on astigmatism that goes into way more detail than today's training. And then some of you might have an ad. That is basically the addition for near vision or for reading, and that is on the multifocal prescription. So that could be bifocals, trifocals, progressive glasses. But if you have an ad on the prescription, it means that you have a pair of glasses that has more than one diopter strength within the glass. And the top part is the distance part. And then as you go to the bottom of the glasses, that is the near vision part. So I am not a fan of these glasses, and I can tell you why. Because they assume that when you look straight, you're looking in the distance, and when you look down, you're reading. But we all know in real life, we walk down a flight of stairs, or we hike, or we work at the computer, and we're looking straight, but we're not really looking far. So I usually get all my clients into separate pairs of glasses. And there's a reason why we also do that, because there's a connection to postural habits and astigmatism. And again, that is more explained in detail in the astigmatism training I did. And the last thing that you find, and that's not always written on the prescription, but PD doesn't mean police department. It means pupillary distance. That is the distance between the two pupils. And it can either be measured from one pupil to the next. That's usually around somewhere about 60 millimeters. It could also be written in two separate numbers, especially if your nose is not quite exactly in the center between your eyes. So they might write it as two different numbers, like 31 and I don't know, 32 or something, which is measured from the center of your nose to the left eye and then from the center of the nose to the right eye. Okay, so let's look at an actual prescription here. So again, right, the first row is the right eye, the second row is the left eye. The first number indicates in this case, it's a nearsighted person, which you can see by the minus sign. So if you're nearsighted or myopic, you have a minus. If you're farsighted, you have a plus. And the sphere indicates the distance vision. And if you're nearsighted, the sphere always indicates the distance vision. Now, the ad, before we look at cylinder and axis, the ad in this case indicates that it's a multifocal lens, right? We just talked about this. So it means that there's an additional number for near vision. And you can basically look at the ad also as information to give you a really quick idea, what is the difference between my diopters from far to near? Like, what's the difference? In this case, it's 225 diopter difference between what this person needs for distance vision and for reading vision. Now, the ad is always written as a plus. And why is that? You might be like, why is that? So as a nearsighted person, I said, you have a minus lens, right? You need correction for distance, for far vision, but you don't need as much or maybe nothing for reading because your vision is really good close up. So the ad is a plus, and basically when you add the minus and the plus, it reduces your diopters for near if you are nearsighted. We will look at the farsighted person in just a moment. So the ad is always plus, and it's basically always the same in both eyes because it just equals out the difference between near and far vision. But the spherical correction basically shows you the difference between the eyes. And we can see here the right eye has less in the sphere than the left eye. But when we look at the cylinder on the axis, which again is the astigmatism correction, we see that the right eye has a -1 cylinder and the left eye has a -0.75. So the left eye has less in this astigmatism, but more in the sphere, right? So basically, just to give you a rough idea, the eyes are not as different as you might think because of the cylinder difference and the sphere difference. But what I want you to take away from this really is that this person, when you add the minus, let's just look at the right eye, the -2, the +225, basically this person definitely can read without glasses. And maybe they need to hold the book a little closer than the 16 inches. Maybe they have to look at it at 13 or 14 inches. But in this case, my first recommendation would be to not wear the glasses when you read. When you do anything close up, like looking at your phone or reading a book or a magazine or a tablet, I would not wear the glasses. For computers, though, this person can probably not, if they were at a computer without glass, they would be way too close to the computer. But here's a little trick that you can use also. So the ad, like I said, shows you the additional diopters you need for, in this case, less diopters, but it shows you the difference between near and far. And for computers, you can roughly use half of the ad as a guide to what you would need for the computer. So let's ignore the cylinder for now and just assume this person has a -2 for the distance, right, which we see in the right eye. We just look at the right eye right now as an example. And the ad was, so they need nothing for reading. But then, so if you look at half the ad would be about 1 diopter, which means they would only need about -1 something. And this is not exact, right? This is a little bit like a rough idea. They would probably need something around a -1, maybe -125. to be at a computer without strain at the proper distance of about 2 feet. So this is just a rough idea. Half of the ADIS usually gives you the clue for computer distance. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the cylinder. And I have very many eye doctor friends that agree with this. So is cylinder of 1 or less, in this case, the right eye has 1 and the left eye has 3/4 of a cylinder, you might not actually notice that in your eye, in your vision. So in other words, this is a really minor cylinder. And again, 1 is kind of the threshold where it goes into more noticeable. But if you're definitely under 1, you will not see that in your vision. And it means that you're not really having an additional blur from the astigmatism versus, your near or farsightedness. And that's why I recommend to remove the cylinder if it's less than 1 diopter. So here is a normal test that is done for astigmatism. And you can basically cover 1 eye and look with 1 eye at a time without your glasses, obviously at a distance where you have clarity, because otherwise everything will be blurry. So you have to look at this at a distance where things are clear. And if all the lines look the same to you, like there's not some lines that stand out as, like some might be really black and some might be really gray, that indicates a stronger astigmatism. But if all the lines pretty much look the same, you definitely have a minor astigmatism cylinder of 1 diopter or less, and it's safe in most cases. Driving, we're going to talk about driving separately. It's absolutely safe to just remove the astigmatism, because if you don't, it's like an arm in a cast. There's no way to improve your astigmatism if it's locked into your glasses. Again, and consult with your eye doctor if needed on this, if you're not sure, because I don't want you to just randomly order something, right? But if it's a minor one, especially I see prescriptions sometimes +1 in both eyes for a reading glass, and then there's a 1/4 diopter of an astigmatism in 1 eye. That's basically a $600 pair of reading glasses you can get for $2 at the dollar store. So we don't want you to do that. But if it's a stronger astigmatism, then you cannot just take it out, okay? And again, you make your own decisions. I'm just giving you some general advice here. Now, astigmatism is oftentimes, I hear clients, oh, my eye doctor said my cornea is shaped like a football, like an American football. So what that means is a regular cornea, it looks like a round shape, like a sliver of, let's say, a basketball. And astigmatic cornea has a distortion. So there's a flatter curve and a steeper curve. So it looks a little bit more like an oval. And this is definitely a stronger astigmatism shown here. And that results in a blur, right? Kind of a doubling or tripling or kind of a fuzziness around the letters. And the axis will be the key factor to give you a clue. Like, so if this person has a so-called, again, with the rule astigmatism, where the axis is around 180 degree or 0 degree, maybe 170, 10 degree, but basically in that horizontal plane. And that's when the letters or the blurriness will be sideways. If you have an astigmatism axis of, let's say, 90, the letters or the blurs would be stacked on top of the letter. So it would be more like vertically. And if you have an axis of, let's say, 135 or 45, something in that diagonal, then the shadows will be in that diagonal axis. I hope that makes sense. But basically, that's what astigmatism is, really simply explained. Now, let's look at a farsighted person. And this is an example of what I call peanuts astigmatism. It's so minor, you will not see that. The lines will all look the same to you. However, when you measure your vision exactly with these machines, there might be this little astigmatism showing up, which a lot of people have without noticing anything different. So let's ignore the astigmatism for just a moment here. And this is, by the way, an axis that would be in that vertical plane, which is common with people with reading glasses that put them at the bottom of the nose. Again, that's all talked about in my astigmatism training. So what do you think when you look at this? What is this person's prescription for far vision? And what is this person's prescription for near vision? Ignoring the cylinder for now, okay? Just because it's very minor. Well done. So yes, the sphere is basically telling you what the distance vision prescription is. It's a 1.5 in the right, it's a 1 in the left. And in this case, to find out what this person needs for reading, all you have to do is add the add to the sphere. which makes it a +3.5 in the right and a +3 in the left. So in this case, I would tell this person, go to the dollar store. The eyes are not exactly the same. So we know that, right? We see that the right eye has a little bit of a stronger prescription. But in many cases, and this also depends on eye dominance, which we will cover today at the end. So basically, in most cases, you will be fine. And that's what I've noticed with my clients, to wear some simple drugstore readers. And if it doesn't work for you, that the same strength, let's say +3 or maybe even a +275 or +250, in most cases, I find that people can easily go well below what the official measurement is, especially if they use a little bit brighter light for reading. But if it doesn't work out where both eyes it doesn't feel good with both eyes having the same, then what you can do, you can still measure at the drugstore each eye separately. And then whatever you like, still, if you like that half a diopter difference between the eyes and it just feels good to you, you could measure at the drugstore. Maybe the right eye is fine with a +3 and the left eye is fine with a +250. And then you can order those glasses with that half diopter difference online. But you can still measure in the drugstore. So that's always the advantage. If you are farsighted, you have that option of just going to the store and trying on these different reading glasses. Versus a nearsighted person cannot do that, okay? I recently had a farsighted person go on Amazon and order distance glasses because she needed them for driving. And she said, this is so blurry, I can't see anything. I'm like, well, you're farsighted and you ordered distance glasses are usually considered glasses for myopia, for nearsightedness, and they were minus. She needed a +1 and she ordered a -1, which of course made her vision 1 diopter worse, actually 2 diopter worse than it is if she put those on. So, yep, you have to pay attention to if you're far and nearsighted. All right, so the next step is super important when it comes to driving, and I want you to really pay close attention. So if you are driving a car, this is important. If you're not driving a car, we will talk about it at the end, you have a little bit more freedom. But when you're driving, especially for those moments when you are actually driving in the car, I would always recommend wearing the doctor's prescription. But something I want you to do, even if that's the case, check your actual vision with your glasses. And all you have to do is get a Snellen eye chart on Amazon. They're very inexpensive. There are those charts with a big E on the top that you might have seen at a pediatrician's office. And then I want you to measure with your glasses on, the prescription glasses from your doctor, if you have distance correction, with both eyes, obviously just glasses on, look with both eyes. What is the line that you can read with both eyes together? And then you do it with the right eye by itself, and then you do it with the left eye by itself. Okay? What we want, if you have the correct prescription, let's say both eyes see 20/20, then the right eye alone should see 20/20, and the left eye alone should see 20/20. Assuming you do not have a cataract, glaucoma, AMD, or any other eye disease that impairs your vision, right? If your eyes are healthy, the eye doctor prescription should give you the exact same line on the eye chart in all these 3 scenarios. And when I work with clients, very often that's not the case, indicating that there is either a cataract or something, or that there is the measurements are not correct. So the eyes are not measured correctly. So here's an example of a prescription, a very nearsighted person with a -9, high cylinder of -4. This person cannot just remove the cylinder for sure. But look at this. It's actually funny they put it in the prism and base section in this prescription, which makes no sense. But when you see something in your prescription that says 20/25, or it said for the left eye 20/30 +2, that is referring to the visual acuity on the eye chart. And in this case, this person probably has an eye disease or something because the doctor was not able to correct this person to 20/20. And that's why they wrote 20/25, 20/30 on the prescription. So because they were basically not able to improve their vision or measure, like even if they put -10 or -11, and that would not have made a difference. And that's why they wrote it on the prescription. So sometimes when you see this, or you have requested the eye doctor to reduce your prescription, and then they also write that on there. So, and the +2 basically means, we will look at that in a moment, that means that that person read with the left eye, read the 20/30 line, and they got 2 letters from the line below correct as well. So before you get your eye chart, so here's one thing to know. Eye charts are measured, they have exact measurements of the size of the letters based on distance. Now, the big chart that you see here is a 20-foot Snellen chart. That's usually what I give my clients. You think of 6 meters, 20 feet. And the one on to the left, the smaller one, is a 10-foot chart or 3-meter chart. Now, do you notice that they're exactly half the size, right? But you can use a 20-foot chart to measure your vision at 10 feet. You just have to do some math because the results will not be the same. Hopefully that makes sense. When you are half as close to the chart, right, the big E will be a lot easier to read than it will be at 20 feet if you stand at 10 feet. So I just want you to know that the 10-foot chart can be quite intimidating, but whichever one you get, you just have to know what you're actually measuring and not just stick it on the wall and stand at any random distance and then assume that the readings, what it says in the chart is correct. And that's why I'm saying, when you use a 20-foot Snellen chart but measure at 10 feet, the same line that you can read on the chart is only 50% of the acuity that is stated on the 20-foot chart. So let's look at this. So on the left-hand side, right, this is a zooming into the 20-foot Snellen chart. The line that has that green line, in this case, they might be looking a little different, but this case, it says 20/20 on the left, right? If you read that line 8 at 20 feet, you have 20/20 vision, okay? Now, if you stick that same line, if you measure your vision with a 20-foot chart at 10 feet, that is only half as good. So it's 10/20, or if you want to, 10 is, I don't want to go into all the details, but 10 is always, the first number always indicates the distance that you're viewing it at, and the second number is the acuity. So if 10/20 confuses you, just kind of think of like this is about 20/40 vision, right? Instead of 20/20, line 8 at 10 feet is only half as good. And the same goes for the last line. So if you can read the last line on the Snellen eye chart, on a 20-foot Snellen eye chart, which is line 11, and you can read that easily with your glasses or without your glasses, that means you have 20/10 vision. Now, at 20 feet, that means they either have eagle eye vision with a naked eye, or your glasses are way overprescribed, because glasses are supposed to correct you for 20/20 and not more than that. So, however, if you have your 20-foot chart, you get on Amazon and you measure at 10 feet, then just know that the last line is basically the equivalent of what your glasses should correct you to, which is like 10/10, or, I put that in quotation marks because it would be wrong to say 20/20 when you measure at 10 feet. But basically, it would mean that your glasses giving you the vision they're supposed to give you if you see the last line at 10 feet. Now, what I recommend you do is that you write these measurements down. So with your prescription eyeglasses, you measure with where it says both right eyes together, the right eye, and then the left eye. So in this example, you see both eyes see line 11, and distance I put in there 20 feet. So both eyes together see line 11 minus 2, meaning you saw line 11, but you made 2 mistakes. You either have a partner there looking at, checking your reading, or you record yourself on your phone, and then, as you're reading it, and then you step closer and you double check what you were reading. So this means that this person with their glasses would be really, really, really overcorrected because they have 20/10 vision. And the right eye, look at this example. Let's say the right eye also sees line 11 and it's really sharp, but the left eye only sees line 8 and it's quite blurry. So in this case, I would suspect the left eye has a cataract. I wouldn't think that the eye doctor measured so poorly that they totally got the left eye wrong. But it might be the case that your prescription is 10 years old and now something has happened to the left eye and you cannot really see much with the left eye, or you can barely see the legal limit. And if this were the case in this example, we will talk about eye dominance again at the end. I would assume in this case that the right eye is dominant, because when the right eye sees, or when the dominant eye sees so much better, usually both eyes together see pretty equally well than the dominant eye. But if the left eye were dominant, then both eyes together would not see line 11. So I hope that makes sense. But what we want to establish before you do any reduction on your own is knowing what you actually see with your prescription glasses. Because maybe your prescription glasses, you can barely see 20/40 and you're driving, then you know what? There's no way you can reduce anything. You have to stay with those glasses and only reduce for things like reading or walking or hiking when you don't drive. it's really important to know what your glasses give you. And that's the first thing I tell everybody that works with me to measure. Now, this is from a website from the, I forgot the actual, it's some authority. I have the link. I can post the link in a minute. But basically, when we look at what is actually the visual acuity rules in the United States of America for driving, and that is actually different in each state, in almost every state. But basically, you can assume that most states and most countries in the world require you to have 20/40 vision in at least one eye. And 20/40 vision, we will look at that in a moment. At 10 feet, it's line 8. At 20 feet, it's line 5 on the chart, on the standard Snellen eye chart. But that's what you need to have in order to drive, right? If you go to the DMV, which what it's called in California, they have you look at that eye chart and they tell you, read the eye chart and then cover this eye, cover that eye. That is not 20/20 vision. It's 20/40. So if you can't read that eye chart there, you know that you definitely need glasses, and they would put that in your driver's license that you need correction. But if you can read it easily, that doesn't mean, if you can read it, doesn't mean that you have 20/20 vision. I just want you to know that. Sorry to burst that bubble. So and some states require color testing and binocular vision testing. And we're not talking about that today because that's not really addressed with glasses. Your visual field is obviously very important with driving, you know, seeing that bicyclist or that pedestrian. But we're not talking about that today. We're only talking about visual acuity because that's what glasses help you do. And visual acuity is something that's measured when you're standing still on an eye chart, which is a still object. When you think about driving, I don't know if visual acuity is really the best way to make sure somebody is a good driver. I would say night vision, depth perception, visual field is a lot more important, but this is, at least in most states in the United States, all they test. And like it says in this article, some states test for additional things. Okay, so that's what I just said as a slide here. Basically, 20/40 is the minimum that you would want, at least in one eye for driving. Now, coming back to these charts, right? Like I said, I was always wondering why is line 6 green? I thought, oh, that's the line we need to read, but that's actually the 20/30 line. And we just learned that really 20/40 at 20 feet, which is line 5, is the line that you need to be able to read for driving, right? With or without glasses, but that's the minimum line that you need to be able to read. And at 10 feet, because if you measure at 10 feet with a smaller chart, it's obviously the same thing. But if you use the large chart, the 20-foot chart at 10 feet, then you need to know that line 8 is that equivalent that you need for driving, okay? At least in one eye, and with both eyes together, ideally, I would hope. So why is there green and a red line? I actually had to look that up. I did not know that. And basically, the American Academy of Ophthalmology says this red and green test works on the principle that the wavelength of red and green light are focused differently by the eyes. Red being closer to the retina with short sight, so it's clearer for people with myopia, and green is focused closer to the retina and long sight, so in farsightedness. So basically, it's an additional way for them to test, or for you to test yourself. And obviously, we also can see some basic color blindness. If you're colorblind and they both look brown, then you know you're colorblind, at least in the green-red spectrum. Okay, now we're coming close to the end. But if you're not driving, here's my advice. If you're not driving, you know, unless you practice some action sports, you know, like you're skiing really fast or you're doing some, I don't know, something else, you know, you have more freedom about reducing your glasses. For you, it's really important to be comfortable and to have enough clarity for your brain to be able to perceive information and function correctly so that you can relax and not strain. Because I find if you reduce your glasses too much, some people are like, oh, I dropped 2 diopters, and then the whole time they're squinting, you're actually not making any progress. So you want to find that sweet spot where it's corrected for that distance and you have enough clarity. And if you're working at the computer or reading or any kind of more mental work, you always want to have sharpness because otherwise you will be straining. But let's say you're going for a hike or you're working in the garden or you're cooking and you're not reading any recipes, you know, it's really based more for your own comfort level, what feels good to you versus exact measurements. And lastly, talk about the dominant eye. So why is the dominant eye important? Like I said earlier, the dominant eye especially if there is a big discrepancy between the eyes. The dominant eye will usually carry the vision more, or if it's the eye that's sees less well, it will kind of quote unquote drag your vision down more. And the dominant eye, a lot of people think the dominant eye means it's the better eye. That could not be farther from the truth, guys. It could potentially be the better eye, yes. But there's, in many cases, the dominant eye might also be the one with the higher prescription. So yes, we have a dominant hand and we have a dominant eye, and most commonly it's on the same side. So your right eye dominant, you're right-handed, your left eye dominant, you're left-handed. I have found a few people that have left eye dominance and are right-handed, in which case I think they're really lefties, but were maybe trained to write with the right hand, because eye dominance usually doesn't lie. However, and we're going to do this easy test in a second. However, there is an exception. If you have amblyopia, which is known as lazy eye, or you have severe vision loss in one eye, that eye can potentially be the dominant eye, but because it sees so poorly, this test that we're going to do in a second will probably not show correctly. We don't know if it's really the dominant eye, because if one eye barely sees and the other eye then will definitely become the preferred eye. So even if it wasn't the dominant eye at this point, you're relying on the eye with better vision, right? So in that case, we sometimes don't know. There's a lot of other things we can test to get a sense of what the dominant eye is. But in this case, this following test, I would say for like 90% of the people, this will definitely work, but you might be that exception. So the way this works is you make a small triangle hole with your hands. You have your arms straight. You do not move your head. You do not move your hands. And it's good to have a partner to help you with this. And you want to look through your little triangle hole at an object. It could be an eye, it could be anything, but you want to have something that you're framing, looking with both eyes open to that little hole. And then either you squint one eye shut or you have somebody helping you, like I do here. And basically, the second you cover one eye at a time, right? You do the left eye, the right eye. Once the dominant eye is covered, whatever you looked at through that little hole is not visible anymore, right? So your focal point will disappear when your dominant eye is covered, because even though you look with both eyes through that little hole, it's too small when you look at the eyes and how far away they are from the head, inside the head. Only one eye can actually look through that little hole, and that is the dominant eye in most cases. Exception noted, as I said earlier, right? So another clue could be if you roll up a piece of paper and I ask you, look through the roll of the paper, or look through a kaleidoscope, or look through an old-fashioned camera viewfinder, you usually would use your dominant eye for that. It's kind of, we usually are very good at shutting our non-dominant eye, but when we try to like squint our dominant eye shut, we struggle a little bit more. All right, that's it pretty much. So I hope you feel more confident about getting your reduced glasses now. Please comment underneath this video with questions and make sure to subscribe to my channel so I can continue to bring you valuable information like this at zero cost. You can also follow me on Instagram at Holistic Vision Coach, and 100% get my free guide called 10 Habits to Healthy and Happy Eyes. That gets you on my email list so that you can get notified when my next group of my Naturally Clear Vision program starts. In the Naturally Clear Vision program, we go into way more detail about all this. You really fully understand everything in your prescription, including prisms and all kinds of other terminology and what that means for you. And I help you and come in addition with your eye doctor to really improve your vision and get step-by-step down into your prescriptions from your doctor, or you order them yourself. But that's what we really do in Naturally Clear Vision. And we address myopia, farsightedness, all the astigmatism. It's a fantastic program. I'm currently finishing a cohort. But when you get on my email list, you find out when the next group starts. And then lastly, if you want to start with some vision improvement today, some guided step-by-step program, you can join my 21 Days to Better Eyesight experience. It's a self-study program. We do not talk about glasses or measure your vision, but now you know a little bit about what to do. And that program teaches you the foundations, like level 1 of vision improvement. So the link is below this video. And that's pretty much it. So I hope this was helpful. And if there's any questions live on YouTube, I will answer them now. And otherwise, just comment underneath and I will look at them as they trickle in. So let me see if there's any questions. I don't see any questions. So thank you so much for joining us live. And this was really hopefully interesting and helpful for you. And if a lot of it is like you're totally over your head, you're like, okay, I don't even know what any of this means, then no worries. Even when you do my program, it just takes a little bit of time. You have never learned this before. It's a lot of information, but just know this is something that you can fully understand. And once you can read your prescriptions, you also feel more empowered. You can talk to your eye doctor on a different level, and you can be like, why is this? Why is that? And especially when you find with your prescription eyeglasses that you cover one eye and then the other, and you notice that they don't see the same thing on the eye chart, you're like, what does that mean, right? There is something, either the measurement isn't correct or it's long in the past, or maybe there's something like a cataract that is brewing that affects your visual clarity and acuity. So that was the topic today. And again, follow me to make sure. Thank you, says Kathleen. Yeah, thanks for the dominant eye. And I wanted to finish this today on here is that why is that important with the dominant eye when we look at reducing glasses? Because I found, and this is something that you have also to look at yourself and experience yourself, the dominant eye does not like to be, let's say you have a difference in the glasses like that person had in the beginning, where the right eye had a 1.5 in the sphere and the left eye had a 1. And let's say the right eye is dominant, right? The right eye would not like to be under, because if let's say it's dominant, it would not like to be under prescribed in comparison to the other eye. And that's why sometimes making the glasses the same is not the best approach. And sometimes it might be a really good approach, especially if the quote unquote better eye with the lesser diopters is the dominant eye, then it's in most cases fine for the non-dominant eye to have a little bit less and have the eyes more equal in the prescription. But this is something that you have to really test out for yourself. There is no right or wrong. Some people actually have less of it, like the eye doctor might, or maybe you are at the exam. And this is one thing I also want to say here at the end. Who finds an eye exam relaxing, right? I remember this or this, this or this. And at some point you're so, I don't know, can you do it again? And then you say, yes, but you're not really sure. So most people are very stressed during an eye exam, and the measurements might, and that's not the doctor's fault, but the measurements might not actually be 100% accurate because you were just so stressed out about it. And so I've actually done a test many years ago. I went to different opticians, those free places. Like I did that in Europe, but where you go get the free eye exams, and every time I came up with a different prescription. And it wasn't like radically different, but it was like a quarter diopter less or half a diopter here or more. So I realized very quickly that it's, yes, we can measure with the machines, but even the machines, the auto refractor, you can stare and you can make it worse. So you can really, so basically, I think it's a great way to, as a starting point, much like a traditional scale gives you some information about your body weight, but it doesn't tell you all the nitty-gritty details, about your fat percentage, your muscle weight, the visceral fat, all the things that we know now. So with a prescription, know that there's always a little wiggle room, and it's based on you, how you showed up to the eye doctor. Were you relaxed? Did you sleep well? Did you maybe go to a party the night before? You were maybe drinking too much. Maybe you were stuck in traffic. You got there really rushed. You came to the eye exam, and then you're like staring at the chart, holding your breath. So your vision will definitely measure less good than it really is. That's something that is just human nature, and eye exams are stressful, right? And that's not the doctor's fault. Really, it's just the idea of, sitting there and then performing this test usually ends up with a prescription that's a teeny bit too strong. And most people, when they get their glasses, these are glasses I found at the beach, but you get your new pair of glasses and you're like, oh, they're so strong. And this is one thing I do want to say to the eye doctors: don't tell your clients or patients, get used to them, because if they put them on and they're like, this doesn't feel good, it's too strong, it gives me a headache, that means they are too strong. And then do not get that. It's definitely because you were measured at that literally worst place in your life. You were stressed out, and do not wear those stronger glasses because they will effectively make your vision worse. And I have education out there. Animal experience, many tests have been done, but you do not want to wear glasses that are too strong for you. And that's why measuring your vision on an eye chart, either the 10-foot chart, here it is in person, or the 20-foot chart, to really get an idea what your current glasses give you is so important as a starting point. And trust me, many, many people I work with are very, very overprescribed. And that was based on them being so stressed in that eye exam, getting those strong glasses, and then basically using glasses that are too strong. And also, many clients I work with are underprescribed, either because their prescription is very outdated, or maybe because they have developed a cataract or something else. But you need to know this before you do any reduction on your own or with the help of an eye doctor. You want to make sure you know what your vision actually is. All right, you guys. Yeah, transition lenses. Ariana, there's a question on YouTube. So the glasses that are basically going dark when you go outside, I do not recommend them. I will actually have an optometrist on in June talking about how important the light is for our eye health and our overall health. And also, if your eyes never get exposed to bright light ever, and I'm talking about safe bright light, not in the middle of the day at the equator, if you especially, or looking at a solar eclipse. But if your eyes are never used to getting exposure to bright light, you will get more and more and more and more light sensitive. And there will also be lots of many diseases that are affected by not getting natural light into your eyes. So we know and if it's very bright and you're in extreme conditions, then it's better to put regular sunglasses on. Let's say you're skiing or, you're on the ocean or something like that. But I don't recommend that in day-to-day life, because your eyes actually have pupils that constrict when it's bright and they open up when it's dark. And unless you came from the eye doctor and they put atropine drops in your eyes and your pupils are dilated, you're taking medications that dilate your eyes, or you have some eye disease where the pupils don't constrict, they're always dilated, then in that case, you have to wear sunglasses or transition glasses at all times. But those are the exceptions, right? Those are the exceptions to the rule. Everybody else should get some natural light into their eyes, especially in the early morning and before sunset. It's super important for your circadian clock and so many other things. So, well, thank you so much. Then, Jana says she has been told that as well. I'm assuming you're referring to the get used to the glasses. Please speak up. And if you get your first pair of progressives, everybody tells me on my free webinars, they were dizzying, they were disorienting, they tripped and fell, because progressive glasses are that idea of convenience. Because as maybe I didn't say that clearly enough, diopters are based on a measurement of distance. So whatever you need for close-up is not the same that you need for distance. And progressive glasses give you that convenience. But what they make you do is now you start tilting your head in weird ways. And there's a correlation to astigmatism. So I do not wear them. The only time where I feel bifocals or trifocals could be helpful are for driving. So if you cannot see 20/40 or better without glasses, and you also cannot see the dashboard without correction, in that case, I recommend getting bifocals or trifocals, because when we are driving, we always look straight we always look in the distance when we look straight, and when we look down, we look up close. But in real life, things are different. We don't do that in real life. We at the computer, I see so many people on the computer like this, or on the Instagram live, and I'm like, progressive glasses, because they look straight, but they need the prescription for the close-up. And so they tilt their head back, and that creates so much strain in the neck. It's the worst thing you can do is getting those glasses again, except for driving and some other tasks where you're always looking far when you look straight, and you always look near when you look down. That's the exceptions. But otherwise, get into separate pairs of glasses. If needed, 3 pairs. For most people, 2 pairs are fine. And that's also way more economical. It's way less expensive. Okay. Kathleen, I don't know about that sticker syndrome. I don't know what that exactly is. I would have to research that. Yeah, so 1 degree of legal blindness in Washington State. Yeah. So with glaucoma, this is a good question, because at the end of the day, I would talk to your doctor about this. And also the states have vision tests. And at the end of the day, if you have glaucoma where you lose your peripheral field, and you have AMD, macular degeneration, where you lose your central vision, at that point, you're not going to be able to drive. But this depends. It's all degrees. And it's also, here's the last thing I want to say about driving before we come to a close today. Driving is also like, I love driving. I always say born and raised on the Autobahn. However, if you already fear driving, if you are afraid of driving, even if you're corrected to 20/20 vision with your glasses, when you are stressed out like that, you have the sympathetic nervous system mode going on, your peripheral vision shuts down, your pupils dilate, you're like the deer in the headlights, your vision will not be 20/20. It will automatically be worse. Versus if you like driving, you're relaxed, you love it, your vision will be 20/20 with the glasses on or with the naked eye, whatever. But just know that it's very important. What is your mindset about driving as well? I know many people that are really scared of driving at night. That will automatically make your vision worse than you would actually measure in an eye exam where you sit in a chair and all this stuff. So I hope that makes sense. So, but your state, they will make sure that you are requiring the legal limits and that you can drive and that it's safe for you. Because also think of other people on the road, especially pedestrians and bicyclists that have no protection around them, motorcyclists. It's really important that we consider those when we are driving. And I read on this website, by the way, let me put the link in the chat, the one I quoted from. I can put that on the YouTube chat. Let me put that in here. They even say that in some states they have you like they measure. There was something like if you might be allowed to drive to the grocery store, or you might be allowed to, I'm like, sorry, I don't get it. Like, is there no other people on the road on the way to the grocery store? Like, how is that? And they even say most accidents happen within 1 mile of your house. So to me, that is just hideous that we have rules like that. But I wish we had more even regulation in the United States. But at the end of the day, you are the decision maker. You decide what you do. No eye doctor can tell you that. You should not listen to me. It's your own decision what you do. And obviously, when you go for an exam and it says correction in the driver's license, you cannot go without glasses and drive, right? If your vision is better than 20/40 without glasses when you do a vision improvement, and I had many people do that, they started with glasses correction in their driver's license, they did the program, now their vision got better. You have to go back to your state's motor vehicle department. You have to redo the vision test. And only if that's clear on your license, you can drive without glasses, okay? So this is possible, but you cannot drive without glasses if it says in your license. I really want to emphasize that, okay? All right, you guys, we will come to a close today. And next week on Clear Vision Wednesday, we have, actually, there's no Clear Vision Wednesday next week. 29th of May, there is no Clear Vision Wednesday. I'm getting interviewed on a big podcast in person, and so I had to cancel the show for next week. But then in June, we're going to have very interesting talks lined up. And when you get on my email list,